HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents A Calm and Normal Heart, Stories, by Chelsea T. Hicks. Read by Chelsea T. Hicks. Nonse waspe wita, howenkishje. Data oju hlunk a di gachape. Tsexope och daska galon, tsexope ekon minkshe. Howenkishki bre, tsi wita bachena. Idape ena kakon data zani dota hudapa. Kakonta wadushonta. Anji nanse waspe, howenki et sit kan atsi hia. My functional heart, where are you? What turned you into an empty glass? Is it that I love the spiders and am like one wherever I go, making my house? I have only to wait, and all things come to me, and therein break their necks. But a calm and normal heart, where does that come from? Author's note. Osage people are currently revitalizing our language, which is called Osage-ia. Due to limited recognition of indigenous characters and fonts, I use Latinized spellings rather than the Osage-ia orthography created by Dr. Herman Mowgray Lookout. This orthography, depicted on the cover of the book as well as in chapter titles, is the written language of Osage-ia, which translates literally as Osage talk. As Osage elder Myron Red Eagle once told me, spellings in our language may vary from person to person. I have reflected that quality of the living language in my usages within these stories. I hope my inclusion of the language will support Osage-ia and the practice of including indigenous languages broadly in literature. Chelsea T. Hicks. Tsexope. One time, between a breakup and a shack-up, I went home for a visit. I had most of my stuff in my car, but I didn't really want to move into my aunt's place, so I went to the laundromat to procrastinate. I parked right across the street from the yellow house where my Eco used to live all the times she divorced my grandfather. An old man was traveling down the street, headed west via lawnmower, and an orange tabby cat greeted me as I roamed in and started up the laundry. There was no one else around. I sat in the gentle breeze from the open windows and listened to the grasshoppers sing on the long grass of the hill behind the building as I opened an old newspaper. Inside was an article dated from 2 summers ago telling about the movie. The movie went without introduction among Osage people, as it was telling one of our stories at the hand of a big-name director with a cast of equally famous celebrities. They were filming the story of how Ishtanki, spouses of my ancestors, had murdered them, with the plan of inheriting our oil money. This had happened to many of our ancestors, and the film was sending a shockwave through the tribe, as we did not often talk openly about old traumas. At the end of the article, there was a call for actors with audition information. Like most Osage people living in town, I'd auditioned, but I was not one of the few who made it. As I folded the paper up, an older woman emerged from the laundromat's office. She was Ishtanki in cargo shorts. She addressed me. "Are you with the film?" "Hello, No, I said. Are you? I thought the film had wrapped. She shrugged. I heard something was happening tonight at the museum. As she spoke, she eyed my blue Mustang parked outside. She didn't bother to answer my question, but she kept standing there, so I told her whose relative I was. She didn't seem to know the names, but waddled off like an old turtle anyhow, satisfied with this barest of info. I changed my laundry over, thinking of her Ishtahi ancestors and the courthouse they'd built to try themselves for their own murders, never referring to our ancestors as people, but always only as the Indian. I thought about going up there to roll a cigarette and stare at the downtown. My phone buzzed. Are you going to the museum thing? Buh. You didn't tell me you were home. I'd been in town all of 30 minutes, and my whereabouts were known and circulating. The laundromat woman had probably gotten on Facebook and started spreading gossip out of boredom. Or not. I mean, what was there to report? Woman with stuff in her car arrives in town? There was nothing they could do but speculate, as I had kept to myself and pretty much stayed out of trouble. I went outside to the curb and sat while I rolled a cigarette from tobacco and other plants I kept in my pocket. The cool wind was nice, not strong enough to challenge my rolling. An old friend passed by in a teal Nissan, but didn't see me. It was the turn of the hour, nearing dusk. Cars crisscrossed intersections in a scramble. Up the hill, the courthouse towered over it all like a throne, blocking the sun. I stared at it, imagining my great-grandmother's trial, how each one of her witnesses mysteriously disappeared and never returned. It was my opinion that ghosts lounged alongside the resident owls in the eaves of the building. The tobacco made me feel like I could bear to go up there and try to talk to her spirit. But I had been so tired, almost too tired to move. I was strangely comforted by my laundry tumbling in thumps behind my back. More texts came in on my phone. Something really was going on at the museum, and people wanted me to respond or commit to meeting up. I watched as cars headed up the hill, past the courthouse. It was the first tribal museum in the country, and we were proud of it. Maybe I could manage seeing all those people in their fold-out chairs on the lawn for whatever was happening. Last time I'd gone up there, I'd seen some moccasins sculpted in clay. I wanted to have the pleasure of seeing them again. I got up and just started walking, leaving my laundry behind as I headed toward Grandview. With each step, the courthouse loomed. Made of copper turned green, with Corinthian columns, it was a symbol of the assimilation forced and facilitated by our oil wealth, the United States government, and the boarding school little more than a stone's throw away. My eco had attended that school and slept handcuffed to her bed by the nuns so she couldn't run away. That was the reason I barely spoke my language and now studied it. Through the interconnected parking lots, I took the least visible route, behind the chief's office, toward the museum's long lawn. I saw a screen set up, as large as a movie theater's, and beyond the white square of fabric, a crowd of Osage people in powwow chairs. This wasn't an art thing, but a movie, a sort of drive-in without cars. I saw one of the friends who'd been texting. Under his flat brim, he had severe bone structure and a slim figure. He watched me. I went over to him, with his black jean jacket and his hat reading Protector. He was normcore native cool. Just the sight of him almost made me laugh, thinking of the old pickup line, I couldn't help but notice you noticing me. Hoe, he said, Latsia. Hoe, dahe, otsipe. I motioned around to everyone there. Dahe, manze ia owatoi, atanka gahe. He nodded at the big screen. Hintse luzo mali. Dopa data olatse daishe. Data olatse dangat kai. Are you asking me to dinner? I said. We smiled at my mistake of switching to English and our ability to understand each other. So, are you in the film or what? He said. No, I said. Everyone keeps asking. They're wondering why you're here. Oh, I said, like I didn't already know. I never knew what to say to him. So, what brings you back this time? A job. To myself, I added that I was simply in need of one. Plus, shelter. I also reminded myself it was all right to be private about my own business. I just didn't like people knowing things about me. A black wolf spider crawled onto my moccasin. We both noticed it and intuited the message. I was on my own and strong enough to be living my life that way. He motioned for me to sit beside him. Hakon washjela danshe, he said. I sat. What am I thinking about? I wasn't sure I understood. Hoe. He nodded, yes. The things I thought most about were my dreams, which were of walking in dried creek beds of carved red clay called the Paths of Sorrow. I had repeating dreams of walking red earth with school children toward wooden staircases like the ones used as cues for old coasters. Epahom maji, I don't know. He searched my face, wanting to know more, I guess, but I didn't look back at him. My old best friend walked by. I almost said her last name, Signe, which means swan. She'd become a devout Christian, and I wasn't in the mood to be evangelized. She wore her hair gelled in crispy black curls, or strands processed straight, depending on the day and her mood. Curly today, which contrasted with her eyes sunk in liner and her hands clutching a book. I stood. I got laundry going down there, I said, and indicated the bottom of the hill. Want company? My friend asked from under his flat brim. You'll miss the movie. Yeah, but I've missed you. Wow. I laughed. Esha. I had not been expecting that. I felt myself getting nervous as we went down the hill and made our way to the laundromat. My mind stayed blank, and I focused on minute details to stay calm, twigs and leaves crushed into the corners of the concrete steps, and the tattoo on his forearm. I wondered if the woman would put out more gossip, or if this visiting was hugely uneventful and I was being absurd from too much time spent alone. The laundromat let off steam through vents, and I anticipated the clothes warming the tips of our fingers. I worry about you, he said. Why? I said. He nodded toward my car and held the door for me. Doesn't seem like you'll ever come back. All that stuff in your car? I didn't know what to say, so I kept my silence. He took his phone out and showed me a picture of a piece of paper. This is what we're doing out here, he said, See what you think. Think kshe, kshe, khan, se, ve, ge, ba, ve, she, ga, e, vea ba, vea bai. I imagine myself vinkshe, sitting, round, singular, animate or inanimate, in the middle of my rug, back in the home of my ina in Gawaji Dama. I imagine myself kshe, lying, long, singular, animate or inanimate entity, on my bed in a hoodie, alone for once, headphones in. I imagine myself khan, standing, singular, animate entity, in a clean room, wherever it was, drinking a smoothie after vacuuming. I imagine myself tse, standing, singular, inanimate entity. Because I had stood there so long, I had become a lamp, a dead tree, a bolt of metal. I became, in my imagining, the moving, singular, animate entity, and I left my room, or my apartment, or my house, and went to Bartlesville Walmart, where there were scattered, plural, inanimate entities, many, many plastic objects, being ogled, purchased, possessed by plural, animate entities, which created incredible yearly waste, hoarding in this, where that, was making these, this one, into that one, that person, she, her, he, him, those persons, this, pragmatically obvious, person or things, the foregoing, she herself, he himself, they themselves, all those who were buying, littering, dying. And in this imagining I questioned, and why could I not be there apai, over there apart, and yet become Nicolabli, a good man? And to myself I replied, well, I am interdependent here, and she who I seek as labli, wita, a good woman who is mine, is not at that location at this time. What is this? I finally said, after I'd read the whole thing. Judging by the last line, I thought maybe he was flirting. He had finished folding my laundry. It was all done. I began to apologize, but he shrugged, and I laughed. I love it, I said, handing him back his phone. Yeah, he said, showing his dimples. Our hands touched when I returned his phone. I stood. Want to go to Tulsa? I said. I didn't know what I was saying, but the idea seized me, and I seized it back. Real quick, I added, absurdly. We could go to the Colony and listen to a show. There's a Cherokee language band playing there tonight, I think. He stood, immediately ready, and I quickly turned away to hide the smile on my face. We went outside, and while I made space in my car, I thought of my life back in Los Angeles. I imagined dancing at La Cita, where the indigenous motherfuckers there, as an ex had called them, didn't differentiate between Mexican and native, and we didn't have to divide ourselves like cold slices of butter the way we did here. I felt the need to enact some type of violence. I started the engine. About what you wrote, I began, not knowing what exactly I was going to say. There's so many people in the world, and we all speak English. I don't want to be limited to the people here or to our tribe. I don't think people have to be with someone in the tribe, or even with another native for that reason, if that's what you meant by showing me the poem thing. Controversial, he said. Some women are good at getting men. What? I was confused. What is that supposed to mean? I mean, maybe you're just saying that to be a tease. Or you're saying it because you do want to be with someone in the tribe, and I'm your only viable option, and you're baiting me. I laughed. How had we gotten here? This was the longest conversation we'd ever had. His out-loud analysis was good, but he hadn't pegged me. I wondered if I regretted this outing. Maybe we ought to go back to that film, I said. I'm in it, he said. Oh, wow. Well, I'm sorry I didn't ask. Maybe we should go back if you want to. No, he said, and I could hear joy in his voice. I wished I could see him. From the way his voice traveled, I could tell he was looking at me, but my seat was farther forward than his, so I couldn't even catch him in my peripherals. He was tall, probably as tall as I would be if I were a man. I focused on taking the curves in the road smoothly. Do you roll cigarettes? I asked. There's some tobacco in the glove box. He laughed. You smoke. Non Baji. Cowboy killers. But he opened it and he rolled. You could get some man out there in L.A., he continued, picking back up on the topic I now wanted to avoid. I had spoken bluntly like that to intimidate him, but he was more comfortable than I was, and he had easily called my bluff. He was still going, getting bolder with each word. Not that there are any Wajaje men for you, but our men, aren't they the ones that need you? And more generally, every man wants to be needed. However, a woman that needs her man too much will become unhappy. It's bien encore paix. When a woman sees that a man knows how to do something, and she does too, you have that. Philosopher, I said, not exactly following him, but meaning to tease anyway. He handed me the cigarette and lit it. It was nice having his hand near my mouth, and I put on Tears for Fears in my CD player and thought of my life in SF, where the DJs and the drag queen cover bands had everyone dancing through the club like tumbleweeds. My date and I touching each other's backs as we danced, and me never knowing if there would be a bottle of whiskey or a gun or nothing tucked into the back of their jeans under the hem of a silky shirt. So you're a city girl, he said when the song ended. You like Tulsa, huh? Well, you want to ride around drinking in a truck on the back roads, or what? He shrugged. You don't have to drink. I get really bored when I don't drink, I said. You could bead, watch some TV, but Diet Coke and whiskey it is, he said. I let him choose his own music next, and we listened to the Rolling Stones. I skipped Under My Thumb, but otherwise let the whole album play until we got downtown. There was no show at the Colony, so we went to Mercury Lounge. We listened to Americana under a blue neon sign. Big Bad Love. I guess this is boring too, I said after a couple of songs. He laughed. Everyone here is ugly, he said. You're ugly, I said. Am not. We laughed. I tried to play footsie with him, but my foot got caught on the metal post under the table, and I accidentally kicked him. We kicked each other under the table. Hooking up with him was starting to seem like a good idea. I want to take you to this place called Movat Point, I told him, but it has a V missing. So, Moot Point? He said. Exactly. He kissed me then, and I kissed him back. I didn't know what was happening, but that was how it began. And I'd had about as much serious conversation from him as I could take. He pulled away. "Let's go now," he said. "You want a bead and watch TV?" "Yeah, or something." "Fine," I said, "but one more song." A Fresh Start. Chez Lushkan, 1956. The Monday after Florence married her boss, she went into his office and told him dinner would be ready at 6. "Sales reports?" he asked. She hesitated, skirt swishing nylons. "Done." "One more thing." Jim hung a cigarette from his lips and tapped the corner of his mouth. Florence kissed him the way he liked, lips extra soft, no spit, then slid the keys off his desk. He said nothing, so she bit the smile from her cheeks and walked out of the office. No one ever drove Jim's Pontiac, but here she was, stepping into the parking lot at 4:30 in the afternoon, tracing the creamy paint job, her new diamond ring reflecting sun off the hip bone curves of the hood. Her eldest son and his wife would be envious when they saw the car tonight. Meeting a new daughter-in-law on their own first night home as newlyweds was not ideal, but nothing about her life was ideal, except for Jim. She rolled the windows down like she didn't care and drove home to check on David John, her 6-year-old. He was supposed to come home straight after school, no more roaming the neighborhood, what with dirt-caked elbows and baseball bruises. This was Jim's new rule, delivered the same easy way he'd said he'd lie, tell the county clerk he was Cherokee if they so much as eyed her. At Johnstone Avenue, she braked for the light, and a teen boy clacked up behind her. He walked by, swinging his hips in gabardine and dress shoes, pounding the sidewalk. His gait reminded her of her first son's father. The light went green, and her thoughts moved away from her and seemed to occur on the windshield as the boy continued on his way down the street. An ache grew between her shoulder blades, the place Eco always said her ancestors touched, supporting her. Her foot hesitated over the gas pedal. She checked that no one was behind her and put the car into park. Then she changed lame pumps for loafers, took 3 aspirin, and hit the gas, speeding away from the sense of unreality that was meant to remain on the before side of the marriage. A white owl flew from a tall cedar and floated low over the lawns where sprinklers stuttered into tiny rainbows. She reached her 1-story limestone house where the bike-free yard confirmed her latchkey kid was out, and went directly next door to ask the redhead nurse if she'd seen him. The door opened on the 5th knock, and the neighbor shook her head no. David John wasn't in the living room trading stories for pie. No one else even opened their door. All down the block, women hid behind peepholes, mixed bloods hating her, the same as the whites they resembled, each identifying her as Indian divorcee. She turned onto Osage Avenue and went down that block, knocking with diligence, but still no one opened. Maybe this was punishment for her transformation from Mrs. Groves into Mrs. Hayden in the span of a year. She faced the yellow-blue sunfade and went home to call her ex-husband, Frank. His new wife answered and said they hadn't seen David John since July 4th. Florence thanked the severe lisp of a woman and hung up.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?